Hello there and welcome back to London. The last time we heard from Akshay Kapoor from Gekko Global Markets, he said the Fed was going to go bust. Now it's time to get his views on another very active central bank, the Bank of Japan. We've discussed central banks in general. What about Japan? It's been the most active central bank of them all recently. I'm sure you're very bullish on the outlook for Japan and the success of its central bank policy.
Well, let me make another prediction. I think Japan will default, and I'm not sort of saying anything which stalwarts in the markets are not. I think Japan will default in this decade.
I don't even see how that can happen. Because the Bank of Japan has already shown it will do whatever it has to do. The debt's generally owned by Japanese households, so I don't see what's going to change. That means that Japan's going to default.
So let's look at what the situation is now. If you go to the Ministry of Finance website and look at their budget document for 2013, yeah, these are not my numbers. These are Ministry of Finance's numbers. Their tax revenues are 43 trillion yen, right? Tax revenues are 43 trillion yen. Total expenditure, yearly expenditure, not including this sort of just normal fiscal expenditure on health, social security, education, defense, and all of that stuff, is 70 trillion. 70 trillion. Yeah, that does not include debt repayments or debt servicing. So non-debt servicing is about 70 trillion.
But it's nothing new though, is it? But then you can say that the same with any country, can't you? You can say the same that Italy's had a debt to GDP ratio of 120% for 30 years.
Nobody's got a situation where they're in such a huge primary deficit. Think of it this way as a household, right? Your income, or let's say my income, yeah.
It's probably a lot more than mine, but yours is probably more like Japan's than mine.
My income or my debts? Basically what he's saying is that my income, right, is not enough to cover my rent, my food, my medical care. Forget my mortgage payments. My income is not enough to cover my rent, my food, my travel card.
Can you name me a country where they can pay for these things?
The US, the UK, Germany.
But we still run huge deficits.
They don't run primary deficits. See, so a primary deficit is the deficit before debt servicing, right? So all of these countries, they run deficits, which basically means that their expenditure is more than their income. But as part of that expenditure is the mortgage payment as well.
Yeah.
Right? So if you take the mortgage payment out and just say, just for you to survive, if you did not have any debts, if you did not have to pay any interest, what was your expenditure? No other country has, no other major OECD country is in a primary deficit. Everybody has a primary surplus. They are in a huge primary deficit, and that primary deficit is about half their tax revenues, right? I'll give you another figure. The outstanding stock of debt is 25 times annual tax revenue. So my debts, my mortgage, outstanding mortgage, is 25 times my salary. You tell me one bank that will fund me. One. Nobody will. That's number one. Number two, their population. So you're absolutely right. The majority of Japanese debt is held by Japanese, the vast majority of it. So that gives them a little bit of a cushion, right? If that wasn't the case, they would have defaulted by now. But what they're facing is a huge demographic problem. Japan's population is rapidly aging. The number of people that are above 60 is 33% of their total population, right? So these people will now need to start taking their money out of the system. They all hold Japanese government bonds. They will have to start slowly selling these Japanese government bonds to fulfill their medical care expenses and fulfill other expenses, because going forward the government is not going to be able to take care of all of them. right? So this, because of the population hump, right? So the US also has a similar problem, but the thing about the US is that it's got a much younger population. So as long as people keep coming into the system, you can keep financing it. But Japan, unfortunately, has a declining population, so there's nothing they can do.
Just to finish off, because we could probably go on forever. So what's the trade off the back of this then?
The trade off the back of this is long dollar yen. The trade off back of this is long dollar yen through extremely out of the money, deeply out of the money call options. You can buy swaptions, so basically options to pay swaps. You can buy options to sell the Japanese government bonds. I think it's going to be the trade-off of at least half a century, if not the century.
Well, Akshay Kapoor there, always excellent value. Stay tuned to Dukascopy TV for more interviews, but for now, goodbye.